Yes. Are live. All right, Josh, welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
One of my
Pleasure to be here.
I know. So before we get into all of our formalities, and hey everybody, it's Scott Stoltz and Josh Drean, and we'll be kicking in a little bit more introduction in a minute here, but you know, I thought as a fun, it's not going to happen, so don't worry. I'm not setting you up, but you are an amazing performer. And well, I didn't know that until I saw you in action at one of Kit Pang's Boston Speaks speaker series when you went up there with the DJ guy.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea how much talent you had. So
I throw down some beatbox every once in a while. It's
yeah.
just a hobby, a fun side thing.
How long have you been doing that?
Since I was like a kid. I started when I was like in 8th grade, and then gave it up for a while because there's no reason to do it. And then I like started speaking as a job, so I was like, oh, that'd be kind of a cool way to reach an audience. So I started beatboxing again, and it was great. It's a great job.
Yeah, it's good that you can mix in. So speaking, mix in a couple things that you love. Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, so again, I'm here with the magnificent Josh Drean.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Jillian and Blake. Did I say that right?
Blake's in California.
Oh, what's up, Blake? Wow, so you're watching this at work, huh?
Well, no, Blake's soon to be. Did you share this, by the way?
Sharing it now.
Awesome.
What is the deal with Blake? Hey, Blake.
Blake is soon to be. We're going to be seeing her on TV and in movies very soon. Yeah, she's out in Hollywood, breaking into the industry, making it big.
Wow. Well, hey, way to take a risk and commit yourself to something. That's a scary and hard thing to do, and competitive. So, like, if you make it or if you don't make it, as long as you find fulfillment, I'm on your side.
Thanks for plugging that.
There you go. This is a good time. I'm excited to be here. Let me just share this thing.
Blake and I go back a couple of years, and her and I have talked quite a few times about, you know, doing what you love and chasing. I don't like to use the word, I'm not necessarily chasing dreams, but knowing what your gut and your heart tell you. So at any rate, and Jillian, who was on here a minute ago, Jillian's out in Arizona, so I'm sure we're going to have people. And you're a California guy. We'll get into that a little bit too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll talk about some of your background. So again, welcome. And this is our first in a new weekly series, partnered with Boston Speaks and Teaching to Lead. And again, I'm Scott Stoltz. Welcome.
Hi, Kit.
Of course, we have Kit on.
Good to see you. Wow, we've got like famous people watching us.
We do.
This is amazing.
And in our new weekly series, every Tuesday afternoon, 2:30 Eastern, we are going to sit down with somebody and talk about career fulfillment, and what it is that brings that really important element of fulfillment to the work and careers that we have. And really, this is a series that we're starting so we can help you and bring something to you, the audience, that'll help you get that fulfillment that you deserve in the work and the career you do by sharing stories like those with Josh Drean. So, and just to kick it off, Josh and I have gotten to know each other the last couple months. I was really drawn to Josh and the work that he does, in large part, not just because you're an entertainer and you're very talented.
Thank you.
But Josh, and I'll let him share a lot of this and what he does, Josh goes around the country and talks to how noble is this? He talks to high schools and students about bullying. And I haven't seen him do it in person yet, but I've seen a lot of his videos. He is the real deal. And you're looking at a gentleman here who can get an entire gymnasium of high school students fired up. How does that feel when you do that, by the way?
Well, thanks, by the way, Scott. I feel very loved on this. For you 3 viewers, man, this is great. How does it feel? And it was a long road, because like standing in front of 1,000 high schoolers who could care less if you're up there or not can be an intimidating thing. So when you lock it in, there's like this engagement with the audience where you just grab them with some joke or something, and they lock in and you lock in, and you can just feel it, and all of a sudden it's just like this ball of energy that you continue to build on and continue to grow. So it's a rush. I would say that's my natural high, is being on stage and getting these students, 1, to like me, and 2, to actually do something that I'm telling them to do.
Why do you say, I gotta go back 1 second, why do you say they don't care who you are or why you're there?
If you think about it, right, so let's pretend like you get on the intercom. Hello, this is the principal. Everyone make your way to the gymnasium. We're about to have an anti-bullying assembly. I mean, how many kids like have heard that already, and they've seen all of these anti-bullying assemblies, and they kind of already have this idea that like they're going to talk about like suicides, they're going to talk about violence, it's going to be this old guy sharing research. It's the last thing I want to do right now, so this sucks, right? And so I want to come in and completely break that stereotype. The minute that they see me and I'm on stage, is like, hey, I'm telling funny jokes that you can relate to, and we're talking about like some beatboxing. I do some of the entertaining stuff up front. And so the idea is to like shift their mentality. But yeah, I would say that like teenagers are a pretty rough audience. A lot of my speaker friends say, if you think you're a good speaker, go try out your speech on a high school audience and see how you do, because they are not going to give you a pity laugh, and they're not going to pretend like they like it. If they hate it, they're going to tell you through their body language and through what they say during the presentation. So yeah, it's an art form, but I'm passionate and love it.
That's awesome. You know, I never thought of that. What tougher crowd? I've done college talks, and but you're right. There's a whole other level, a little next level of maturity there. And
plus, they want to be there. If you think about it, most kids have to pay to go to college, and it's not like a required thing. So you're getting a pretty good skim off the top of kids, because they're in high school. You don't get that because everyone has to go to high school. If you want to or not, you're forced to be there, and so you get a little bit more of a mix.
Yeah, awesome. So you open up when you're talking to these kids, and we'll get more into the anti-bullying in a minute, because I definitely want to hit you up on that. But you open it up because it's all about, right, and we've talked about this before in some videos that I've done, connecting with the audience. Now, what we normally hear, and what I often do, is storytelling, or opening with a story that allows the audience to connect with you. Do you do a story, or are you more concerned in front of the high school audiences about entertaining them a little bit? How does that work?
I think it's a hybrid. Definitely a story, because stories are king. Content is king, if you will. And so there's just an emotional reaction to a story. So I used to come out and just straight beatbox. Like, hey, I'm a beatboxer. You guys want to hear some? And like, I thought it would just kill, but there's like no content. There's no context behind it. So I learned through some great mentors that if you like bring a story to the table, like, how did you get into beatboxing, and how did you figure out this is what you wanted to do? All of a sudden there's depth. And the entertainment just isn't beatboxing just to, hey, I'm trying to get you guys excited. It's like, oh, well, like, this actually ties into the entertainment, and it also brings a powerful message. So the story that I tell at the beginning of my presentation is my very first time street performing in Boston. I bought a little speaker. I took it down into the subway, into the T, if you will. That's what we call it out here. And I was out there for 45 minutes just getting beat. Like, no one paid me any money. People were laughing at me.
Wow.
Like, people were throwing garbage in my cup. And I ended up meeting one of my heroes. It was a beatboxer by the name of Gene Shinozaki. And he's like the best in the world. And I met him while I was down there, and it inspired me to keep doing it. Anyways, we have this little beatbox battle, and I tell this story about how he inspired me, because he's like the best in the world. So yeah, the story leads somewhere instead of just trying to entertain them. It's kind of gimmicky if you're just doing that.
Do you, let's just say an average gymnasium full of 400 or 500 students. When you're in front of a group that big, are you paying attention to seeing if you've caught their attention, or there's a level of excitement, or there's going to be some pockets of some quieter people, there's going to probably be some kids that are getting really riled up. Do you pay attention to that, or you, at this point, because you've been doing this for a while, we'll talk more about that too, are you just like, I'm going to go through my sweet sequence of things I want to cover? Or do you look to feed off of what the audience is doing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Public speaking, the art doesn't come from the words that you are preparing and saying to your bathroom mirror. Public speaking, I think, comes from that exchange. It's the art of putting something out there, seeing how the audience receives it, and then putting something else on top of that, and it doesn't go well, so you have to readjust. And so I would say the first 5 to 10 minutes of my presentation is not trying to teach them anything. It's just trying to win them over, to get them to open up and to connect. And that's throughout the entire presentation. I actually just gave a speech like on Friday. Just last Friday I gave a speech where I couldn't connect. Like 5 minutes of trying to connect. And when that happens, you just like, all right, this is just going to be a bomb the whole time. And I that's what happened. I just bombed the entire time.
Do you mind if I, what was the audience? What was
the audience? It was a school in New Jersey. New Jersey. I do a lot of presentations in New Jersey, and you get a mixed bag of audience every time. You get like these schools that are like 90% white, and they live in Princeton, and they have all this money, and then you get like these inner city Jersey schools where there's not a lot of money, and so there's like a different set of challenges there. And I would say that this school was there. They had a very specific challenge, whereas there were some kids that just barely came to the school like a week ago, and they're trying to connect and fit. And so like there was some disjunct with the audience, and it just wasn't vibing here. And so I would say that happens. That's the thing is like even though I've been doing this for like 6 or 7 years, it doesn't matter how good you are and how awesome you know how to like engage teens. There's always going to be like a moment where you can't connect and put the pieces together. But that's all part of the learning experience, and you just kind of take that and move on.
Yeah, I got to give you credit, and we're going to move into the bullying part in a second. But that's great. That well, wait, how long have you been doing this? The talks at schools.
I started in 2012.
Okay, for a while then.
So I guess that's 5 years, 6 years. Yeah, I'm coming up on my January 1st, 2018 will be like when I officially start. So that's
And you know, as somebody who, let's just use the term, you put yourself out there online, doing talks, public speaking, performing, you know that you're going to receive criticism. You're going to receive silence sometimes or crickets at a talk. And sometimes what you're producing or putting out there isn't for everybody, but you have a really good sense. I'm picking up from you just listening to you. You seem to have a really good sense of, hey, that just comes with the territory. You don't really, we'd always love to connect with everybody, but you seem to roll with it pretty well and accept that, you know what, sometimes it's just not going to fully work the way I want it to. And you don't let that derail you.
Yeah. Sometimes it does mentally, but like working towards my goals and what I really want to do, it definitely is something that you have to do. Because like putting yourself out there is really hard. People take for granted how hard it is for some people, like YouTubers, to do what they do, or speakers to get up, or trainers to get up and do their thing, because you're literally just putting your heart out there and saying, this is me. And I can't tell you how many times I've like watched a video and cringed, like, I'm just not gonna post it. But I'm like, well, that's not the point. The point is to continue to like post and learn as you go. So I look at vlogs that I did like a year ago, and they were horrible. Like I've learned a lot, but I'm like, if I would have just like given up because I sucked, well, then I'm always gonna suck. It's not a learning process. So continuing to post is important. And
I love that, talking about evolving and getting better. And it's great that we can go back and look at ourselves in the beginning of something that we did and say, wow, I've really grown since then. But my business coach, one of my coaches, if he happens to see this, Sander Fryer, he's amazing. And just this week, he posted a video to our group of myself and some other clients about, we always have to remember what we're doing. In this, with the kind of work that we do, we're doing it for others. It's not about ourselves. So even in those moments where it feels uncomfortable, we're fearful, we're not sure if something's done, perfect, ready, you put it out there and you always remind yourself, and I know you know this, we always remind ourselves we're doing this to help other people and let them benefit from it. And in the meantime, we continue to get better at what we're doing. So let's talk a little bit about the anti-bullying. How did you, good, I hope, I'm glad you did, yeah.
Take notes, guys. Claudia, welcome. I don't know how long ago you posted that, but I'm getting to do some good stuff here.
Good to see,
I love that.
Claudia on there, awesome. So how did you land on getting out there and talking to kids about anti-bullying?
Do you want the like elevator, like motivational version, or do you want the like practical businessy version?
Well, can we do a hybrid? Let's do a hybrid of that.
Sure.
Let's do a little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay. So the business kind of like not so heroic version of how I got into it was I wanted to be a speaker really bad because I wanted to work with teens and help them, but I didn't have a subject or a topic. And so one day I booked an event, the ASPCA. It was a huge event. It's at like the Marriott Marquis at New York Times, like the Times Square in New York City. You pay a lot of money to get a spot to like keynote and do a quick little showcase presentation. And so I was like, this is my shot. I hadn't done any presentations, but I shelled out like $1,500.
Wow.
I got a spot, and I went there, and I made a little banner, and I had this whole thing. And people would come to my booth, and they're like, okay, this is impressive. Cool, what do you speak on? And I didn't have an answer. And I was like, it doesn't matter, right? You tell me what you want me to speak on, and I'll speak on it. Well, people would just walk away from me. And they wouldn't like listen to anything that I had to say.
Wow.
And so I called my mentor that night. I was like, this is not going well. Like, what do I need to do? And he said, listen, like, you got to solve a problem or else they're not going to book you. And so here are the 3 subjects that most youth speakers speak about, and maybe you can find something there. So I went back the next day, and people came to my booth, and they asked, what do you speak on? And I said, well, I speak on these 3 topics. And what I started to notice is, like, so it was like drugs and alcohol, like safe sex, or like bullying, and people just, they gravitated towards bullying. And all of a sudden I started like telling my story around that. Well, I used to be a mascot in school, and as a mascot we kind of got bullied, and like all of a sudden the pieces started to come together, and I started to share my story, and then all of a sudden it rose from the ashes. I'm an anti-bullying speaker. So that's kind of it. But also I like, the reason why I really got into that is because that's what kids need to hear today. A lot of kids are on social media, they're using their phones, and they don't really have coaches. They don't have people that are teaching them how to use it in an appropriate way. So there's a lot of like negativity and terrible things going on there. I just want to show them that you can use it for good. You don't have to get caught up in the drama of it all. So it was definitely something that I have developed a passion for, but it just kind of broke to the surface. I'm like, yep, this is where I'm at.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. I love the context of the background of how you arrived at that, and it's very, the way you position that, it's very organic. Like, and you were very open and honest. You didn't come from a heroic place where you knew right in the beginning, I'm going to go out and help solve bullying.
Yeah.
You put your foot into the arena, and then you found really something that could be helpful that you also connected with. What happened when you were a mascot?
Yeah, so I was a mascot in college. I went to a school called BYU in Utah. I was
good school.
Cosmo the Cougar. So as a mascot, you do a lot of different like sporting events and like marketing events, but one thing that you do as well is you go do like recruiting events in schools. So I would go out to these schools, and like usually the football player would get up there and say like a quick minute of, hey man, like I'm the best, so you can be the best. And the cheerleaders come out, yeah. And then like the mascot comes out, does some flips, kids are like, giant stuffed animal, and then off we go. Where I just like would walk away from those and be like, dude, these kids are looking up to us. We are literally like their heroes, and then we don't even give them a message. We just like walk away and leave it at that. So when I graduated, I was like, no, like, what if we could do this for a living, where like I'm entertaining and fun, but I'm also like delivering a message to help the students. So that's where I started. I started like breakdancing a lot when I first like started, because of the mascotting piece. I just moved to New York, started speaking locally, calling up elementary schools, middle schools, and saying, hey, like, this is what I do. I'd love to have you like check out what I do for free, of course. And yeah, that's kind of just snowballed from there to now I'm a full-time speaker. I do 150 schools a year, and I'm just loving every minute of it.
That's amazing. How do I love this story. How do these school administrators react to, well, first of all, do a lot of the schools that you go to, have they had people in to talk to the students about bullying and anti-bullying before?
Most likely.
Okay. And how have you found a lot of the administrators, teachers, principals to react to what you do? And I'm not setting you up to say they love me or they hate me. It's more of like, I'm curious to what the people who work at schools who have to mentor and teach these kids and deal with all the crap, the bullying. Like, how do they respond? They must really appreciate what you do, I would think.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the hierarchy here, like we have the administration and the teachers who have to be this authority figure at school and be like, hey, I'm not here to be your friend, I'm here to teach you. And the kids are like, okay, like, you know a lot and we have to listen to you and do what you say or else we're going to get in trouble. The problem is a lot of times the information that they need to hear doesn't get in there. So what they do is they hire me, Josh Drean, to be a liaison. I am like a cool and hip guy that understands what they're going through and understands where they're at. I know the pop culture, I beatbox and I break dance and all this stuff. So all of a sudden, like, these kids are like, whoa, like, we've got this cool guy here at our school doing fun things. And then all I do is I just like package everything that the school wants me to say to them, and then I insert it on top of all that fun stuff. And it's just like, hey, you know, like, Yeah, as a mascot, it was a lot of fun, but you also got to learn that your number one job as a mascot is to represent your school. It's not about just having fun. It's about representing who you are when you're in that suit. And the same thing is true for you students. When you come to the school, you might think that the administration are just a bunch of people who don't care about you, but the reason they have these rules is because they do care. And now all of a sudden you start to see, like, these kids are like, oh, okay, like, I just teach the golden rule, I teach you about resiliency and empathy, stuff that they've been hearing since elementary school, but they finally, like, will hear it because they're not trying to put up that wall against administration. Fight the man type stuff.
Yeah, that's well, and you know, and I mean this in most sincere and good. Like you look like you could really connect with. And I'm just saying, you never judge a book by its cover, but you have a lot of energy. You look the part where you can go in, and I'm not saying you look high school age. I'm saying you look like somebody who can connect with younger people too. I'm not necessarily sure. I'm not cutting myself down. I'm not sure I could walk into a gymnasium and really connect with kids. I would certainly try, but that's great. The energy you combine, the energy with the performance, stories, and then of course a message.
Yeah, and it just depends on how you brand yourself, right? Like I'm at the age where I can still be like your cool big brother who's like dressing like this, whereas I'm like 30 years old, right? So I should be moving on and like becoming a real adult, but like this is where I feel comfortable and they're comfortable, and there's going to be a time, where I'm like, okay, I'm not like cool anymore, so I can like rebrand myself as like the wise uncle or more of like a father figure to these students. And they're speakers all of the different ranges. It's just finding your niche, finding what works for you.
I love that you're already so cognizant of that too. You're aware of, X number of years or whenever down the road I'll transition in some, which is part of the journey, which is part of the fun. So to wrap up a little bit more on the bullying or anti-bullying work, what do you, speaking of career fulfillment and things we can get out of the work that we do, what are one or two of the big things you take out when you finish a talk with a high school, and let's just say it's one of your better ones, and the kids are jazzed up and they're coming up and talking to you afterwards, and the administrators say, hey, great job, thank you. What are you walking away with inside here?
As far as the fulfillment?
Yeah.
Oh man, like there's nothing better than walking on, like dropping the mic after you presented and know that there are students in the audience that you've impacted. And a good benchmark of that is how many people like reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook afterwards. Like I live for my messages. Just some student direct messages me on Instagram and says, hey man, I just wanted to say like I haven't been happy in a really long time and I'm dealing with this stuff, but like today was the first time that I laughed in a long time, so thank you. Like that just like pulls at my heartstrings. I love that stuff. But like to be honest, there was definitely a long period of time, I wouldn't say that long, a period of a few months where I wasn't super fulfilled because I started realizing that like a one and done presentation didn't really have the power to change school culture. Like it was cool to feel cool and like high fives and selfies afterwards, and you only do that so much and you realize that's still kind of a pretty surface thing. Like, are these kids actually going back into their class and practicing empathy, or are they actually confronting the bullies or the obstacles in their way, and I realized that like there's more that needs to be done. So that's why I actually started my video piece, because now kids who are watching YouTube, most kids love to watch YouTube now. It's not just a one-time presentation. Now they can go subscribe and they can see like my fun adventures the next day and the next day, and they can talk with other students from other schools and say, hey, this is what I'm going through, and I just saw Josh's video on this, and now there's a forum for them to talk. So I think fulfillment is an ongoing process for everyone, and even when you hit that mile marker, there's still more fulfillments to be had.
Absolutely. So you, in your case, this is awesome. You got yourself involved with this particular type of work and realized, I don't know how quickly you did, but at some point you realized, maybe there's a little more I could do. And it stemmed from, tell me if I'm wrong, it stemmed from the fact that you wanted to feel like you were making a bigger impact. Because when I talk with people, whether it's one-on-one or in groups, one of the biggest components of fulfillment, as I mentioned before we started, is knowing you're making an impact. And we want to make an impact on other people. It's great when we make an impact on a report, a project, a deliverable in our jobs, But really what matters as human beings is we want to know we impacted somebody else and how we made them feel.
Yeah.
It's all about how we made them feel. So I sense from you, and tie this off for me, that you were making kids feel good in the moment, but you wanted to do a little bit more.
Absolutely. It's cool posting an Instagram like the day after a presentation because all these kids are still fired up and they're commenting and everything. But what about the kids I spoke to last year? They are no longer fired up and they don't really care. So what can I do to create a movement and not a presentation? And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. What is there more out that I can do? And I had some experience with video and editing, and so I just thought, well, like I could develop a curriculum or write a book or, maybe take the other talents that I have and try and mix them into what I do. So that's where you get my YouTube channel.
Right. And by the way, how's that working for you, the YouTube channel? I mean, I'm learning this myself with my work. How much do followers and views and likes and all that matter? And matters in one degree to a little bit, but really it's not substantive stuff. But are you finding that kids are watching your videos? Do you feel like it's getting out there and making an impact?
Yeah. The one thing that I hate more than anything about social media is the misconception that we have that more followers means more impact. Not true. Not okay. Like, if I had one subscriber that is completely loyal and is getting value out of what I'm putting out there, then like the hours of editing is completely worth it. So I do not have a huge following on like YouTube, but every time I make a video, my thought isn't, I wonder what's going to go viral. My thought is, I wonder what's going to help kids with today's challenges. And so it's based around that. And yes, you have to be entertaining or they're not going to watch it.
Right.
So you got to mix it all in together. But yeah, I just think that if you really want to find fulfillment in whatever you're doing, never get caught up in like likes or all the other stuff, because that doesn't matter. What matters is, are you passionate about this? Are you pleased with the content that you're generating? And is this being used for the betterment of society? I think that is true fulfillment.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better myself. That's great. And we know that income, title, tenure, authority, those things have their place. I'm not dismissing those, but what you just talked about is what really gets people jazzed. I like to learn about what excites people when they wake up in the morning. And in the last 30 minutes or so, I know I've definitely gotten a sense of that from you. So in the last couple of minutes, what else? What other kind of work, if anything, do you have going on in the pot right now? What other things that do get you excited? What do you have any thoughts too? You've kind of tipped your hand a little bit about down the road, but do you have any thoughts about some future endeavors and things you got going on? I've seen you and Kid online a little bit lately, and you might be reaching for an opportunity to TED Talk or influence, or what do you got going on?
Yeah, stuff like that. What I really am passionate about right now is taking what I've learned about the teen market and who kids are and what they're into, and translating that into something that like bridges the business and the educational world. So, for instance, Kit and I right now are working on a project called the Daily Influencer, and Daily Influencer has two parts. One part is helping these young kids who are like they aspire to something bigger. Is like, well, you can be an influencer in your life. Let's teach you how to do it. And so we teach them how to, like find what they are passionate about, how to like film stuff, how to like get a media account and put it out there, and how to grow your followers. And then there's another part where we are working with businesses and corporations who are interested in Generation Z. They want to know what these kids are into, what videos they like, and essentially how can I sell to these kids, or how can I partner with influencers for them to share my product. And so I can come from a background of saying, hey, I know kids, I know teens, I work with them on a daily basis. This is what they're into, this is what's going to be exciting for them. Let's consult a little bit on how to bridge the world there. So that's the current venture. And then just continuing to do what I do. I love getting into schools, going from school to school, speaking to students about bullying and helping them just be better people. That's all I want, is to engage teens to handle life's challenges.
I love it.
It's the best job in the world. I love it.
I truly mean this. It's so admirable what you're doing, and that's an age and a demographic where the world's changed. I think about when I was in high school, and it's not about dating or how old we are. It's the landscape has changed so much, in large part because of social media, and it's great. I agree with you. They're really good tools, but they open up a whole other avenue or box of potential vulnerabilities. And I'm not talking about I'm vulnerable, I'm getting upset in front of, I'm talking about we are all out there in one way, shape, or form, and it allows others to come at us.
Yeah.
And as much as good as you're doing, there's always going to be, unfortunately, some folks out there who aren't using them in the best way possible. So I think the work you're doing is so meaningful and needed right now. We didn't, when I was in high school, bullying, I was bullied at times. But it's just more rampant now, right?
Absolutely.
So we need this.
Kids have more tools and they can be anonymous. So so they're still kids, but it's just like, instead of like, oh man, I'm mad at you, I'm going to go say it to your face. That is harder than, I hate this guy. What do you guys think? You hate him too? And they just post it out there. It's like a lot easier for them to do something like that. So yeah, getting out there, and it's all about the movement, Every time I post a video, there are kids from schools that I speak at who say, why don't you kill yourself? And this is just so stupid. And why are you doing this? And you can listen to those voices, or you can focus on the kids who are there to get something out of it. And typically I see that as a good thing. If people are throwing rocks at you, then you're on the right path. So just creating a movement of positivity, helping teens. And, if we can reach one of them, then we gain our fulfillment in life. That's what fulfills me, at least.
And at the end of each of these series every week, we're going to do one thing. And you're our first guest, so you're the first person that I get to ask this question to.
Ooh,
you could
lightning round.
You'll be good at this, I know. If you can look into the camera, and if somebody had posted the question that just said, what advice would you give when it comes to finding and creating fulfillment in the work that I'm doing? What's the one piece of advice that you would give or share to an audience about, hey, this is a step, this is a thought, this is an action you can take, a call to action. If you truly want to find fulfillment in the work you do, what would you share or what would you suggest?
Wow, no pressure. Piece of advice. One thing that I tell students all the time, I start my presentation with this, I address it during the presentation, and the very last thing that I tell them before I leave is one simple question. And that is, what is your because? A because is like your passion or your desire or the skills that you want to develop or your destiny if you want to go that far. Your because is that one thing that you want to do with your life. Once you find it, and that's the hardest part, I think, find what your because is. Once you find it, you become unstoppable, because that all of a sudden gives you purpose and that gives you direction. I mean, if you break the word because out, B is what do you want to be, like who are you, and the cause is what causes you to action, or what is the cause that you represent. That is your purpose, that is your direction, and once you find it, it's gravy. So stay tuned. I say this is a great opportunity for you to find your fulfillment, find your success, find whatever it is that you're looking for. The reason why it says create is because it's not so much about finding it, it's about deciding and building. So what's your because?
I love it. I'm going to have you come advocate for our work more often.
Absolutely. I would love to do it. I believe in it.
Thank you. Awesome. Where can people find you online?
Hit me up at joshdrean.com or any of my social medias. That's at joshdrean. That's my YouTube, my Snapchat, my Musical.ly, my everything. So I'd love to see you there. I'd love to continue to keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Josh, thank you. This was very insightful for me too.
Absolutely a pleasure.
Thanks everybody, whether you're watching live during or you're checking this out later. And again, remember how to lead yourself to a fulfilling career and get some thoughts going around, like Josh just said, like we've been talking about, creating and owning that. That's the whole key. You own it. We have more, as I share often, we have more control over the work and careers we have than we think. So when it comes to fulfillment, you have it in the palm of your hand. We just got to know our purpose and how to find it. So talk to you all again soon. Every week, next Tuesday, I'll see you again with another great guest. Thank you. Bye.